Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus Reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. Almost forgot who I was and what I was. It's the off season, but we still have plenty to talk about. So yeah, we're still here. Let's get it going.
Oh man! Before we move on into the off season, because we're going to talk about the off season, number one. Number two, we're going to talk a little bit about the draft, and then we're going to dig into the top 12. Ben, that's bop, bop, and a bop like that. 12. And there's a very specific reason why we're going to do 12. You'll see that later. And then I want to talk about the NFL and race.
Wow.
Little lightweight banner on that.
Doesn't sound lightweight, but we'll see.
All right. But it's all love because, we're all about football, family fun, and all that kind of good stuff. So before we move further, because this is the off season, it's interesting when we take a lot of information off of the, television, cable, and streaming, things of that nature, try to absorb all of this, put it together and bring it back for the people to give them something in addition that they can think about and enjoy about the game. Well, this is the off season right now. And so when I watch media, it's interesting to see how they're filling in with, with the lack of game information. Because, game time is really crazy. If you really think about it, you and I are red zone guys, right? Because we want to get as much football as we can in that little 6-hour window or whatever we have when there's like 8 games going on at one time in the 1 o'clock slot. And then you got four or 5 games in the 4 o'clock slot. And we always, the great thing is when you get a night game, because it's usually just that one game and you can actually focus on the game. And to me, that is the most enjoyable. Well, now we're in the off season and I get a chance to kind of maybe go back. So just real quick, I'm going back, looking through the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, and I'm calculating our percentages, right? On the Bias Plus reports, right? Because we're talking about we're going to have a season, and I'll let you know how we did for the season. I think we're looking okay. But as I'm going through the game and I'm seeing the games that the Bias Plus said this team was going to win, and they didn't. One of the games that stood out was the Bucs Chicago Bears game.
Okay. All right. I'm intrigued.
So was I. So I went back and I throw it up on it, on Game Pass, and I'm watching it. And I'm like, first of all, I already saw what the score was, right? Bears won.
Okay.
And that went against the bias. So I'm like, okay, we know that the Bucs coming out the gate weren't the Bucs as they showed up in games, week 17 into the playoffs. They got their act together. They were a little.
Yeah. What week of the season was this game played?
4.
Week 4. Okay. All right. Good.
Week 4. Keep going. So I throw the game up. The first surprise I get, quarterback is Nick Foles.
Right.
Not Trubisky.
No, they had their fill of Trubisky early.
So I'm looking for my man Mitchell Trubisky. Nope, it's Foles. And I'm thinking, damn, Brady gets beat by Foles again.
Oh, now I remember that game. They made a big deal at the end of the game because Brady ran off the field and didn't shake Nick Foles' hands. Nor did he shake his hand after the Super Bowl. He's got a thing for Nick Foles.
And maybe rightfully so, because Nick Foles is his anti. So wait, this game had a bunch of momentous things happen in this game.
Okay.
For example, this is the game that Vita Vea broke his ankle.
He had a broken ankle?
Yeah. Vita Vea
Okay.
came back for the Super Bowl.
I remember he came back.
And I mean, it was one of those things where it's like his ankle went like crunched, like in a way, like this way. You know what I mean? It was kind of ugly.
Right.
It was
Right.
kind of ugly, right? The
Right.
score was like, it was a low score. It's like 20-19 or something like that, right?
Okay.
This, it was crazy. This is the game where Brady lost track of the downs at the end of the game where he held up the infamous four fingers. And it was crazy because what happened was at the end of the game in that last 2-minute thing, right?
Right.
Bears got the ball. They're like in field goal range, man. They're maybe on the 20+ yard line, right? 17 yards, what's that? Like a 37-yard field goal, right?
Right.
But they're still throwing the ball. And rather than running the ball, killing the clock, knowing that, okay, you get a field goal, you're up 1. Brady gets the ball back, they get a field goal, you lose, right?
Right.
They're still throwing this is Nick Foles. Nick Foles hit some amazing passes and threw some of the worst passes all in the same game.
I just brought up the stats real quick. Foles was 30 of 42 for 243, a touchdown and 1 interception. But they won the game 20-19.
20-19, right?
And if I'm not mistaken, Brady's little snafu was in their attempted game-winning drive. Isn't that correct?
But that's what I'm telling you.
Yes.
Because the Bears were throwing the ball, right? And they had an incompletion, I do believe, stopped the clock.
It left time.
Right? They gave the ball back to Brady. I believe he had a timeout and like a minute and a half left. So you're like, oh, you guys are in trouble. You know what I mean? But this is week 4, and that engine, that Bucks engine wasn't quite fine-tuned yet. You know what I'm saying? So Brady gets out there and throws a couple incompletions. And next thing you know, it's 4th down, and they got to go for it.
Right.
He throws it to a guy who's covered like a blanket.
Right.
4th down's over.
I believe he had pressure on him.
Looks around and puts up the fingers like, what?
Like, we got one more. It's 4th down. It's 4th down, right? No, bro. That was 4th down. Yeah, that was.
So that was an extremely so Brady gets beat again by Foles. Vea breaks his ankle. The infamous, is this the 4th down? The Bears doing everything they can to give the ball back to Brady with extra time left. But you don't see that if you just necessarily, if you saw it in red zone, you wouldn't have saw a lot of those little decisions that were being made.
Right.
And you wouldn't have heard some of those comments on some of those Nick Foles throws. I mean, Nick Foles is the only guy on the contract right now, right? As quarterback with the Bears. Trubisky's a free agent, so he's not under contract per se. He's available for free agent, but Nick Foles has an actual contract. So
I doubt that they re-sign him. So yeah, you might as well call him not under contract. I would agree. I think, and let's face it, when they brought Foles in at the beginning of the season, this past season, we knew that made Trubisky's leash extremely short. So by game 4, yeah, we seen enough of this. We brought Nick here just for that reason, and they brought Foles in because that's what they got him there for. And then it turns out he has a knockdown, drag out fight. I love that expression. I don't know why I couldn't get it out. And I'm looking at the little game summary. They actually went into the fourth quarter up 16-14. That would be Tampa Bay. Cairo Santos kicks a field goal to put the Bears up 17-16. Ryan Suckup kicks a field goal to put Bucks up 19-17. And Cairo Santos kicks a 38-yarder with 1:13 left in the game to put the Bears ahead 20-19. Give the ball back to Brady with about a minute left. And I mean, it wasn't a lot of time. He was under pressure. He's human. He had a brain fart. He choked. It didn't look good. He was embarrassed. Foles beat him again, and he immediately took his helmet off and jogged to the locker room. I don't think he shook hands with anybody.
So that was you could add the Foles snub to that list of things that were significant about this game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and like I said, you could see that the Bucks didn't quite have their act together. Now that defense stood up. I mean, they shut them down. You know, four and out. You know what I mean?
It was a defensive battle, actually, and I believe that early in the season that the Bears were faring pretty well, had been predicted to be a pretty staunch unit. I'm not sure exactly where we had them in the ranking, in our rankings, but they were living up to the hype, you know, and Tampa Bay was living up to their defensive hype also. There was a bunch of field goals kicked in that game. I mean, it was back and forth in the fourth quarter. So neither team could find the end zone there late. And it turned out to be a really good game.
This, you know, what we were talking about as far as the field goals are concerned reminds me of the Eagle game where, you know, I said to you that I felt like Doug, the coach at the time, when he said we were trying to win the game and he went for it on fourth down as opposed to kicking a field goal, which, you know, and I said, you know, at the time, you know, Super Bowls, you know, field goal kickers are usually your highest scoring person. And so many games are come down to a field goal, the point here, point there. You know, the points are valuable in the NFL, you know, right. And somebody said about Hurts, he said he did everything that you can ask your rookie quarterback to do. He got you in field goal position.
That's right.
And that's basically what Brady and Foles did. They got you in field goal position. And if that's valuable from two guys as experienced as them, then it has to be that much more valuable for a rookie to get that done for you, you know, in a hot game where he's trying to figure out his left from his right. So, yeah, you know, football, man, you got to love it. You got to love it. Okay. All right. All right, so again, this is Ben and Barry on football at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. And we will be on podcasts at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And every Friday from 6 to 7:30 on the radio, WJRL Radio 95.3 at WJRLradio.com. Ben, let's take a look at the Ben and Barry Facebook page. And on that, we have some key dates, and we want to talk about that a little bit. So the first key date, and we talked about this last week, is March 9th. The franchise and transition tag period is open. So you'll have to see those decisions being made. Today is the 3rd. 3/3/2021. So they have about 6 days or so, and some of that stuff is starting to happen. We talked last week. We talked about top free agents. Guess who was not on that list last week? It wasn't our list. We were going by a list,
right? And it wasn't our list, and I knew somebody somewhat prominent was probably missing, but who is it?
J.J. Watt
Oh yeah.
was not on that list as a prominent free agent.
Well,
And you know, there was some information about his contract that came out, and maybe you can take a quick look while I'm messing around with the computer on this side. But they just recently, like today or so, came out with what supposedly are the true numbers about what he got paid as a guarantee. And it looked as if the guarantee that he actually got was a lot lower than the guarantee they were reporting. So if you get a chance while we're on here to kind of to look that up, we want to make sure we bring that to the people. So yeah, March 9th franchise and transition tags have to be in. February 23rd, that's done. That marked the first day for teams to designate who they were. Okay, so it opened up on the 23rd. Going out to March 15th and 17th, legal negotiating window ahead of the NFL free agency. So for a few days before the new league year and free agency officially starts, teams are allowed to contact and enter into contract negotiation with agents of players who will become unrestricted free agents on March 17th. So we're going to have to work next week. We'll work on making sure that we have that list of unrestricted free agents.
I believe those couple of days are unofficially deemed the how do they put it, the legal tampering period.
Oh, okay.
You're allowed to legally tamper for 3 days before the 17th, well, 2 days, and then on the 17th you can officially do what you're going to do.
Sounds positively sexy, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The legal tampering period. Okay. All right. Now, says here March 17th, the new league year begins. So, you know, when you're looking at companies, a lot of times companies have a fiscal year other than, you know, January 1st to December 31st, you know. So this league year is a March situation. March 17th is when the new league year begins, and free agency. The 2021 NFL league year starts at 4 p.m. Eastern time on March 17th. Teams can begin to sign new free agents and trades can become official. So we'll be busy on the show following that little. That's going to be like the sharks all attacking one time, like, you know what I mean? That's going to be crazy. But it's fun because we know it's coming, so we can get ready for it. All right, what's up next? Hello, new coaches, April 5th. So the 7 teams that hired a new head coach, Atlanta, Detroit, Houston, Jacksonville, LA Chargers, New York Jets, and Philadelphia, can begin off-season workout programs. This little piece right here is going to tie into our comment section. So keep an eye out on this list of teams and who those coaches are. But they get a chance, Ben, to get started with their off-season workout programs. What's that? 14 days ahead of the other coaches?
I was unaware of this, and I am ashamed to say it. But I was unaware that teams that hire new head coaches get to start their off-season programs before the other teams do. When did this just come out in the new CBA or something? I had no clue. I'm not even sure if that's fair. Is that? Yeah, I guess it is.
I've seen it, but I didn't see it as significant. And so maybe because you weren't aware of it, You know, I wasn't aware of anything, so it was one part of a lot of information for me. Okay, blah 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 blah. So, but you didn't know that new coaches get a little head
I
start, eh?
didn't know that, and I'm assuming that they're trying to allow new head coaches to kind of get their programs off the ground. So they don't want them to be at a disadvantage to teams who have established coaching staffs and an established head coach. So I guess to level the playing field, they're going to allow them to start their off-season programs. And off-season programs doesn't necessarily just mean practice. Obviously, it means meetings, looking at film, guys meeting each other, position group meetings, and such things as that. So it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. I wouldn't want a new head coach to be at any kind of a disadvantage. So I'm going to assume that's what this is for. And
Well, you've made the complete
this is
emotional
new to me.
swing here from it kind of like you didn't kind of like it, like, oh, is this fair? To kind of makes
No,
sense.
that's crazy, dude. I just did like a 180, like, all right. Okay, it's cool.
But I look at it.
He's not known for like trying to be extra fair.
I look at it like this, right? Okay, what date was that? March, the April 5th.
Right.
Before April 5th, Tom Brady will be out in the park with his receivers anyways.
Anyway. There'll be some random high school field somewhere, right in the park. Yeah. They don't care. What do they care?
So then April 19th, welcome back. All coaches, all other teams can start their off-season workout programs on the 19th, okay? And then April 29th, 10 days later, through May 1st, the 2021 NFL Draft from Cleveland, Ohio. All righty.
Cleveland this year. Interesting.
Cleveland, yes. I have to talk to my Ohio family, see if anybody's going to try to go to the draft. It'll be May. We'll be into a period where by May, a good portion of the population will be vaccinated. Some states are being a little, I believe, too aggressive in trying to open up. But shoot, by May, even the more conservative states will probably be foaming at the mouth to get open and, and move, have people come into places like this. Hopefully there'll still be testing and they'll still be, being careful with masks, et cetera, et cetera. But the fear of dying once you've been vaccinated is the one fear that kind of gets removed, because that's the one thing that the vaccine is kind of saying, okay, for the most part, if you get it, you won't die. Can't promise everything else so far, but that's the one thing that mostly all of them are almost at 100% efficacy.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I haven't heard officially. I assume that we could probably look it up and find out, but I'm going to assume that this will be one more basically virtual draft like we had for 2020.
Good question. No, hadn't looked it up. I can, we'll find out. And like I said, what I saw is that a lot of these organizations make the announcement as if it's going to be live and then back it off into a virtual scenario. In my other life with Legal Shield, we have a national convention, and that's how they started out. It's going to be a national convention. It's going to be in April. It's going to be, it's going to be great.
Right. And then
a little later, it's like, it's going to be virtual.
Yeah, well, they don't want to come right out in the beginning and say it. They want it to sound as normal as possible, just in case something good happens and they're able to do it, even if it looks grim. So
well, that's helpful. I mean, there's when you have those type of gatherings, there's so much electricity, so much energy,
sure.
That gets generated, and I can see that it's maybe a different challenge to generate that type of energy remotely. You know what I mean? But hey, worldwide, a lot of energy following teams and things of that nature. So, it's a great thing. All right. 2021 NFL draft. Next up, we're going to talk about the draftees. Who's going to get drafted? All right, Benny. So in this next segment, we're going to actually talk a little bit about the draft. Now, we're going to come to it from a slightly different perspective. And, one of my favorite analysts is Cynthia Freeland. And the reason that she's one of my favorite is because whatever she says, she's got to be able to figure out how to number crunch it, because that's what she basically does. It's an amazing thing with the algorithms and all of that kind of stuff. But it means that she sometimes looks at things slightly different. So do I. I mean, the net point power rankings and the bias plus reports are a slightly different way of looking at the NFL. So let's take a quick look at her article and see what she actually has to say. I hope I get this right here. Yes, okay. So NFL Station, this is the Cynthia Freeland Mock Draft 1.0, which indicates there's going to be a number of variations or updates on this draft. But she tries to answer the question of what team would win now? What's the one draftee that they would have to take to win now? And so we're going to take a look at some of these draftees. She says she's not attempting to predict or divine what the team will actually do on draft day. But it is interesting sometimes when you see how these metrics and these calculations go. So let's kick this off with pick number 1, Trevor Lawrence. She basically says he's going to that she would take him, or the Jaguars should take him if they want to win right now. That he's ready to step up to the defensive intensity in the pros. And Pro Football Focus has him as the only quarterback in the draft class who has faced the blitz over 200 times in the past 3 seasons. Is he your number 1 quarterback coming out of college also?
I would have to say that Trevor Lawrence, yes, probably is my number 1 quarterback coming out this year. I've seen him win a national championship. I've seen him play in a few national championships. I've seen his body of work over the last couple of years. He's got all the tools, the height, he can run, strong arm, makes all the throws, great leader, stayed in school, didn't come out early. You know what I mean? Yes, I would have to agree that he's the number 1 quarterback coming out, hands down.
Interesting. All right, let's see what we have here now as the number 2 spot for Cynthia. And again, first of all, would you take him number 1? Jaguars have the first pick. So you think that the Jaguars are going to do that, or would you suggest that they do it?
Okay, so I understand that she's trying to make it clear, excuse me, she's trying to make it clear that the person that she thinks each team should take with their number 1 overall pick in the first round is the person most likely to help them win right away. Okay, so when she says if they want, this is who they should take if they want to win now, obviously we're talking about improve in the wins department. Okay, if you got 3 wins, you're not going to go to the Super Bowl the next year. I mean, obviously it's possible, but I doubt it. So especially off of 1 draft pick. But I do understand, or I believe that I understand, that what she's saying is this is the person they should take that will make the most impact. Okay. Whereas I believe most teams would draft for either specific needs or actual overwhelming talent. Obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars need a quarterback. They have the first pick overall and the best quarterback in the draft by everyone's estimation is sitting right there for them. This one is easy. You take Trevor Lawrence.
Now this is an interesting number 2 pick because I don't think most people would be looking at an offensive tackle, Penei Sewell, for the Jets. So the Jets have what's this? Okay, so it's the Jaguars and then it's the Jets. And apparently this young man is a top pass and run blocking lineman, and the projection assumes CJ Mosley's returning, and she's assuming a few other scenarios. But do you know anything about this young man, Mr. Sewell?
Yeah, it's at the University of Oregon. I believe that he is looked at in the same vein as Trevor Lawrence as far as his position is concerned. I believe that he is the hands down number 1 offensive tackle in the draft this year. Now, of course, things can change. People have opinions. You got to look at the Mel Kipers and those guys like that. They're already up to draft 4.0. So, you know what I mean? They're continuing to evaluate players. They got to look at pro days because there's no combine this year. So we have to see pro day workouts and things like that and look at film constantly. But as of right now, Penei Sewell is the number 1 offensive lineman. I won't even just say offensive tackle. He's the number 1 offensive lineman in this upcoming draft as deemed by myself and most other people out there.
All right.
But 2 ways to look at this. Okay. Now let's remember again, we're going through the Cynthia Freeland article. Okay. And Cynthia Freeland says that with the number 2 pick overall, the New York Jets should take an offensive lineman. Therefore, you got the number 2 pick overall. Why not take the best projected offensive lineman if they want to have the person that will make the most impact toward them winning games? That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to fix the Jets' problems. There's a lot of folks out there who feel like the Jets should maybe trade back and get 2 or 3 more picks for this pick. Okay, this is the number 2 pick overall. This is an extremely valuable pick. There's been talk of them going quarterback. So, again, when you're a team like the New York Jets, there's a few different ways that you can go to get yourself an impact player. So this is her opinion, okay, because obviously their offensive line was a mess last year. So the first thing you got to do is you got to be able to run the ball and you have to be able to protect your quarterback. Therefore, in her estimation, if we're going to run the ball and protect our quarterback, that will help us win games. Therefore, we should get an offensive lineman. Why not get the best one? So I see where she's going with that.
Well, she actually agrees with you, but she says right here that it's the most likely draft slot to be traded, right, and that the Jets have a lot of needs. So you guys are saying kind of the same thing. So yeah, the thing about sometimes when you're doing these mathematical models, you have limitations and you have to fit it in and it has to, meet certain requirements. So that's an interesting thing. Let's look at number 3 real quick. Jamar Chase, LSU wide receiver, going to the Miami Dolphins. Apparently he opted out in 2020. She says in 2019, he was the most open receiver in college football when viewing the percentage of targets where he had at least 3 yards to work with on passes intended to travel more than 10 yards. So that's what you call some statistical analysis right there. But bottom line, Jamar Chase, bad boy coming out of LSU. What do you got on him?
Okay, so I'm starting to see a pattern. I think I'm starting to believe that I I kind of see where she's going as
Oh
far as
no.
as far as how she's determining who she's picking for each team. I think what she's doing is she's taking her numbers and her algorithms and her throwing them in the computer, but I believe she's doing it by position groups, seeking out the weakest position group, okay, and then trying to enhance that position group in order to assure the team that it will help them win.
That's some
Okay.
serious
So far,
analysis, Mr. Dickinson. Holy mackerel. I hear you.
and
Go
so
ahead with
far,
your position groups. Talk about it.
and so far, she's had the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the #1 ranked quarterback, the Jets taking the #1 ranked offensive tackle, obviously a weak position group, and the Dolphins taking the #1 receiver, which I'm assuming, because I don't know, but I believe that she feels through her, you know, whatever she goes through to come up with her numbers and her reasons for doing things, that the wide receiver group of the Miami Dolphins needs some improvement. And Jamar Chase, I believe, is the #1 receiver in a really good receiver class this year. This is an excellent receiver class. And this guy's at the top of the class. And for the people who watched the Alabama game and say, well, #1, the dude opted out this year, so he didn't even play in 2020. And #2, we saw Devontae Smith. He's a beast. Oh my God. Did you see what he did in the national championship? Let me just remind you, 2019, Jamar Chase was the #1 receiver for LSU and Joe Burrow. Guess who the #2 receiver was?
Who?
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings. Had a great
He was
year.
the #2. He was the #2 behind Jamar Chase.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So he was older, but he was the #2. Because he came out
I
and,
don't know how
Chase
old he
didn't.
is. Jamar Chase was the #1 receiver on that team, on that national championship team.
Right, but the #2 is in the pros now. Jamar Chase is still it's just coming out now.
Yeah.
So I'm saying the Jefferson was an older student
I don't
or
know.
upperclassman, but he was still the #2 behind Jamar Chase.
He might have been. Maybe Jamar Chase chose not to come out early. Jamar Chase opted out. So I don't know if he was going to come back and play at LSU again, or, I mean, he didn't go into the draft. So I'm assuming that he was going to come back and play another year. In fact, this says he's a junior.
Right.
So if 2019 he was a sophomore, and Jefferson was a junior, okay, yeah.
So I'm just saying that makes it even more impressive to me that he was a younger guy. He was the #1 guy over somebody as talented as Jefferson.
Okay. That's okay. I've seen guys come in and be true freshmen and go crazy. This kid is good, man. He does it all. He does it all.
All right. Okay. So we finished up #3.
Yeah,
and
let's
again,
keep going, because this is getting interesting now, because I see a pattern. Now I'm waiting to see if the pattern breaks.
ladies and gentlemen, if you heard him complaining about this article before we got started, I am absolutely cracking up over here, because all of a sudden now he's seeing some things, but Ben is the college guy. So I don't watch as much college as him, so I really depend on him in these situations. Let me scroll down to #4, going to the Atlanta Falcons. Mr. Pay. Now, how do you say his first name? Quetty?
Quiddy, I think it's Quiddy.
Quiddy Pay?
I think so.
Edge rusher?
Yes.
Senior from Michigan.
Yes.
Going to the Falcons. So according to your theory, the defensive line is the weakest unit on the Falcons.
According to my theory, I believe that Cynthia Freeman has deemed the Atlanta Falcons pass rush as the weakest part of their team.
All right. It's Freeland, L-U-N-D. Let's get it right.
Freeland, Lund.
Freeland. Okay. So you're saying according to your theory, this is who she thinks is the weakest unit.
I mean,
Okay.
that's the
And
way
so
it's
she
been
had.
so
Now,
far.
do you know about him as an edge rusher? Because I
Did
see
you hear
Chase
that?
Young in the article. They threw his name in there.
Well, he's a good player. I didn't see a lot of Michigan. I think I might have seen them play twice. Michigan did not have a really good season this year. So I didn't hear a whole lot about him. As usual, before the draft comes up, we do a lot more studying because obviously we lean toward NFL football and we don't follow college as closely as far as, keeping up with stuff because, we have to keep up with the NFL because we do this program. However, I do try to watch games, and because of COVID, of course, everybody didn't play full seasons. Some teams played 6 games. Some teams played 10 games. Some teams played 4 games. So it was kind of erratic. So I don't want to step out and say that I believe that this guy is the number 1 pass rusher in this year's draft. There are several, but I don't know enough about him to put my name on the line and say, Ben says this guy's the number 1 rusher coming out.
All right. You don't want to put your name on the line. I can understand it. Makes sense. Makes sense. He does come up as with a prospect grade of 6.4 by the NFL. He's 6'4", 272, Benny.
That's
Quitty
great
pay.
size. That's great size. But again, I'd like to see some film on him, which I will get a chance to look at. And also I'd like to see how fast he is. Okay. Those things mean a lot when it comes to an edge rusher.
We shall see. We shall see. Okay. Again, this is Ben and Barry on football. And we will be on WJRLradio.com every Friday from 6 to 7:30. The number 5 pick, Cynthia Freeland, has gone. She's saying that the Cincinnati Bengals should take Rashawn Slater, another tackle, offensive tackle, with their number 5 pick if they want to win, or that he gives them the best chance to win right away. You know anything about Mr. Rashawn Slater?
I don't know a lot about Rashawn Slater except for the fact that he also opted out, just like Jamar Chase did. And I think I can see a couple of little words here from Cynthia that may have been a missed opportunity for him because Northwestern actually had a really good season, which would have given him even more opportunity to put some good film together. But she's obviously seen enough to believe that even though he opted out this year, that he's got the goods and he's a top flight offensive lineman, meaning that, again, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. We're talking about Joe Burrow at quarterback, and there can't be anything more important for the Cincinnati Bengals right now than protecting Joe Burrow. So, again, it makes sense. I don't know that that's what they're going to do. They might go wide receiver. They might go defense. I don't know. They got a lot of holes. So, but I understand where she's going. I respect it. If she thinks that in order for them to win games, they have to protect Joe Burrow over anything else, I cannot disagree with her. I can't disagree with her. I'm not saying I agree that they should take this guy, but I do agree that somewhere along the line, they have to figure out how to protect Joe Burrow or they will not win games.
Man, let me tell you something. I was watching something on the NFL channel, and they were talking about the Cowboys when they were just, when Zeke was having his best rushing, numbers, and how dominant that offensive line was.
Yes.
Back then. So, you got to believe. We both believe that the games are won at the line of scrimmage. It's a big man's game up there, and team that wins there usually wins. So let's look for number 6. All right, Cynthia, let's see. In the NFC East.
Okay, she just broke her trend.
You think so?
I
Because
think
the Eagles
so.
are talking about getting rid of Zach Ertz. He might hang around for a
Okay,
year or so, but they're talking about
I
letting
take
him
that back.
go.
I take that back. I take that back. They're not really breaking the trend. I'll tell you why. Yes, they're going to let Zach Ertz go. But you could not tell that organization that Dallas Goedert was not the heir apparent. And Dallas Goedert could still be the heir apparent. And they could believe that Dallas Goedert is good enough to step in and take over for Zach Ertz. I personally think he will be good enough that they should not have to feel pressed to take a tight end, that they can address other things.
Unless you want to run a lot of 2 tight end offense, which if this guy is that good and if
he's that good.
Yeah.
He's from Philly.
Okay.
I forget what high school he went to. I have to look that up. He's from Philly, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's that good. Played Florida. He's that good. But I don't think they're going to take him.
Okay, you don't think that's what the Eagles will do, but okay, he might be a great second tight end in the 2 tight end offense.
Right.
And I like 2 tight end offenses, let me tell you that much.
But if my theory is correct, I don't believe that tight end is their biggest weakness.
Okay.
I think offensive line and or defensive back is probably their biggest weakness.
Well, they're a little long in tooth on the offensive line, and yeah, we've seen their defense get shredded. All right, pick number 7, the Detroit Lions with a brand new quarterback from the Rams, Jared Goff. She's saying that Penn State Penn State, Micah Parsons, again, opted out. So I know you know this you had that Penn State familiarity. What's going on with Micah? Micah, see? There you go.
Micah Parsons. I love me some Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, if somehow, some way the New York Giants do not figure out how to get Micah Parsons, I'm gonna be real, real upset. I've been thinking about it early on to kind of lessen the blow if they don't pull it off. Okay. But I love me some Micah Parsons, and he would look absolutely wonderful in a New York Giants uniform. And him and Saquon can chop it up about times back at Penn State and all that stuff. Micah Parsons is a top flight linebacker. There might be some other linebackers out there that I'm not real strong on, so I don't want to declare him as my number 1 linebacker coming out in this year's draft. But I have a feeling I'm going to end up doing that. I really like Micah Parsons. Now, as far as him going to Detroit, again, we have another situation where we have a team that has a lot of holes. Evidently, she feels that their biggest weakness is at the linebacker position. She may be right. I can't argue because they got a lot of issues. Me personally, again, they just traded Stafford. They got Jared Goff. Jared Goff is pretty slight in build. And if you followed Stafford's career, he's been bounced around quite a bit. There's a famous video out that you can probably find on YouTube, and it's been floating around on Facebook, of him having his shoulder dislocated, going off, coming back on the field, and leading the team to a game-winning drive and a touchdown with one arm hanging off. So I would say they need to get into the offensive lineman line and pick up a big offensive lineman to protect Jared Goff. So I would.
Okay. All right. So you want an offensive lineman as opposed to a linebacker.
Right. But I understand her logic. I do.
All right. All right.
Every one of these guys is a top flight guy, except for, I don't know about my man Quiddy, but all these other dudes are top flight players.
Let's see who the next top flight player is. The number 8 pick. She's got Zach Wilson going to the Panthers, BYU quarterback. He's still a junior, but she talked about him, and she likes his ability to make off-platform throws a la Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Deshaun Watson. So she likes that kind of stuff, and she says Zach Wilson can do that. What do you think?
And she's right about that assessment. And you're going to hear Zach Wilson's name a lot as we get closer and closer to the draft. In fact, early on, like during the season, when they would talk about, college a little bit and what the upcoming draft might look like, and spoke of quarterbacks, which they always do, it was Trevor Lawrence and then Justin Fields. You didn't hear a lot about Zach Wilson. But now that the season's over and people are really beginning to start to do their homework, you see Zach Wilson starting to climb the ladder and Justin Fields starting to come down the ladder a little bit. Now, I don't want to declare Zach Wilson as the second best quarterback coming out in this draft, but I don't want to poo-poo it either. Okay? Zach Wilson's nice. The kid can move. He's real shifty in the pocket. He makes those off-platform throws. Okay? And he's got a nice arm. He's not real big. I don't think he's real tall. I think he's only like 6 feet tall. Do you have his numbers? He doesn't appear to be a real big guy in stature, but he comes from a program, BYU, where throwing the ball is always important.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
6'3", 210.
There you go. Beautiful. So he's tall, but he's small. Yeah, 210 is not big at all, but that's okay. 6'3", 210, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. They'll get him up to about 215, 218. He'll be fine. The kid can play. And obviously, Teddy Bridgewater did not get it done, to Matt Rule's dismay. And but Teddy Bridgewater can bridge the gap between himself and the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers' future. So that one makes sense to me. I can see them, making that move. I also can see them taking Justin Fields or Josh Fields. I keep calling him Justin. I see them taking Fields from Ohio State also. And I tell you, not to sound, I don't know how this is going to sound, everybody, but Matt Rule, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, who used to coach at Temple, he likes black quarterbacks. Let me just put to you, that's the only way I know how to say it. He likes black quarterbacks. You know, the backup, Bridgewater's backup is our man, PJ.
Oh, from the
XFL.
From the XFL, right? Exactly. Who came in and gave us a few thrills during the season.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I remember, and I don't want to end, we're so excited about PJ, but he did throw that interception in the end zone, which I
Yeah.
thought at the time, had he not, it was one of those I could have been somebody moments. You know what I mean? He make that
Yeah,
touchdown and not throw that interception.
that's true.
Pow! Blows right up.
That's
That's what
true.
I really thought about him, because he was moving the ball. He was moving and grooving, man.
That's
So
true.
yeah, okay. That's an interesting point there.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, their defense wasn't horrible, and they had a really nice run game. Even when McCaffrey went down, Davis came in and played really well.
played
So
pretty well.
their offensive line isn't horrible. Okay. So if they draft a quarterback, be it Zach Wilson or be it Fields, okay, now you got a seasoned veteran, a #1 overall pick, and you got a capable guy in PJ. What's his last name? Washington.
It'll
Who's
come to me in a minute, but PJ.
Yeah, who's been around for a little while, who's been in some quarterback rooms with some really smart coaches and some veteran quarterbacks, okay, who's come up through the ranks, through Temple, through the XFL, made it to the NFL, okay? That's a nice little quarterback group you're gonna have there.
PJ Walker.
Walker. That's why I say Washington. I knew it was a W. PJ Walker. That's a nice little quarterback group you got there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you seem to be assuming that Teddy Bridgewater is going to stay, and she mentions that he unfollowed the Panthers, but I haven't heard any big statements coming from Bridgewater saying he doesn't want to be with the Panthers.
Yeah, I think he's being smart and keeping quiet. I don't know what he's thinking, but he's not going to come out and make any announcement, because Deshaun Watson made an announcement, and look at that mess. And then Russell Wilson, who everybody thought was going to be a Seahawk for life, makes one little statement about, yeah, I wish they would come to me and talk to me and let me be in on some of the moves they make. And now all of a sudden he's halfway out the doggone door. So yeah, Teddy, shh.
Well, Ben, you talked a lot about Justin Fields, and as we scroll down, guess who we see?
Oh, it is
She has
Justin.
him going 9 to the Broncos. Now, this was interesting because apparently she got Drew Lock. What's she doing with Drew Lock here?
Okay, so as far as I know, the jury's still out on Drew Lock. So she might have missed on this one. Evidently, she doesn't believe in Drew Lock, but I don't think that the Broncos are done with him. I think he's shown them enough to maybe give him another shot. He's only been in the league, 2 years? I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. If you go Justin Fields, then that means you're pretty much giving up on Drew Lock. And teams don't usually give up on a first round. Did they pick him in the first round?
I'm not sure. I have to check.
First and second round. He was a fairly high pick, I believe. I could be wrong. I know y'all think I know everything, but I really don't. But but the bottom line is, if you take Justin Fields with the #9 pick overall, you're telling Drew Lock that his days there are over. That's the way I see it. I don't know any other way to see it, unless you're saying, you know what, Drew, we're not through with you. We still believe that you can possibly do it. So we're going to bring this young fella in, and we're going to let you guys fight it out. They could do that.
They could do that.
I think Drew Lock has enough experience that he could hold Fields off for at least a season or so. And if he can stay healthy and they can win some games, he'll be okay for a little while. But talk about looking over your shoulder, whew, man, that's gonna be tough. That's going to be tough. That's why Teddy unfollowed the Panthers on Twitter. Because if they take a quarterback, his shoulder's going to be hot. He's going to feel that hot breath on his neck
constantly.
And he doesn't like that. No, I don't blame him.
I don't think anybody likes it, but I think it's part of the new reality.
Yes, sir.
The interesting thing, Ben, is this next pick. Let's scroll down. She's got the number 10 pick going to Dallas, an edge rusher. Dallas don't have enough edge rushers. Really?
And it's another opt-out dude.
Yeah.
He opted out in 2020, but his 2019 data was some of my favorite. Oh, you just moved it while I was reading. There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I can't really see that well. Oh, okay. He's versatile. He lined up all over the defensive front, so that means he played the tackle and on the edge. Generated pressures from every spot. Also improved his average time to pressure adjusted for alignment from the beginning of the season. That means how fast he was able to get out of his stance and into the backfield to the quarterback. So
he played offense and safety in high school.
Wow. That means he can run.
But again, all right, we're talking about the Cowboys, right? So
you think she missed on this one?
Well, I don't know if she missed, but let me see something here. You're talking about edge rushers, right, with the Cowboys. Right now, as I look at the Cowboys left end, I see DeMarcus Lawrence. Right end, Aldon Smith. Defensive tackle, Tristan Hill. Antoine Woods. But as far as the edge are concerned, I'm seeing DeMarcus Lawrence and Aldon Smith. You ready to move those guys on and put a Mr. Rousseau in there?
I mean,
behind Aldon, they have Randy Gregory. Remember him?
Yes.
6'6". All right. Rondell Carter behind him. And that's on the right side. On the left side, Dorrance Armstrong and hold on. Who's this other gentleman? Bradley Anay. So those are some of the names. Nothing big there. But I just remembered that, it seemed to me like Dallas was pretty strong at edge. But again, with his flexibility, that's just interesting that she thinks that that's the unit that needs where an upgrade would give Dallas the best chance of winning. I would have thought it would have been at the offensive line.
Well, like I said, whatever she's using to come up with the data that says that defensive line is a severe enough weakness that if they improve it, it will help them win. So be it. Obviously, this guy has shown her enough. And again, I'm not going to try to pretend that I know a lot about somebody that I don't know a lot about. But I did watch Miami, and I forget who I was watching them play, but the pass rush was pretty fierce. In fact, they have another pass rusher. I think they had some bookend edge rushers that were both pretty good. I just can't remember the other guy's name. So the guy is obviously a top flight player at his position. But whether or not he would make the biggest difference for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I got a question about that.
Yeah, I think I'm more toward offense like you are.
So, Benny, that's 10. Now, a lot of times you would think we would do the top 10, but I said we were going to do the top 12 for a very specific reason. And before we do number 11 and number 12, let me again say this is Ben and Barry on football. You can find us on podcast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And we are on WJRL Radio.com every Friday from 7 excuse me, from 6 to 7:30. Okay. Number 11. You know, I had to include number 11.
Because that's the Giants pick.
Devonta Smith. Now, this guy is the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yes, he is.
Woo, going to the Giants. What do you think about that?
now, first of all, let me make this clear. I did not look at this list, right? This is the first time you are showing me this list. I do not have a list of who's picking where in the draft in front of me. I didn't even know because I didn't want to fret over it. I didn't know where the Giants were picking. I thought they were picking somewhere in the top 15 because of their record, but I didn't know exactly where they were picking. But now that I see this, and now that I see that about an hour and a half ago, they released
Golden Tate.
They released Golden Tate about an hour and a half ago from when we started this program. Okay. And now I see this. Okay. And they just helped out their cap by 6.1 million, which is always a big plus. Okay. It's all coming into focus now. It's all coming into focus now.
Cynthia, I have a new convert for you.
Let me reiterate, all right? I believe that Jamar Chase is a all-around better receiver than Devonta Smith.
Really? You do?
That's what I think. I think when you put it all together, height, weight, speed, hands, route running ability, run after catch, you put it all together, I think Jamar Chase is better than this guy. However, this guy won the Heisman, man. He ain't no joke. Now, as far as him being the answer to helping the Giants win more games, there I disagree. If I had my druthers, I'd take Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State. Either that or an offensive lineman, the best offensive lineman I can get my hands on. Because guess what? Daniel Jones is never going to live up to his full potential if they don't protect him and go all out to protect him like some of these other teams are protecting their quarterbacks. Okay, we're never going to get to see how good he can be if they do not protect him. They say he's got a problem protecting the ball. He's getting sacked, and when he gets sacked, he fumbles the ball. Don't let him get sacked then. Build up your offensive line and let this guy work. Not to mention Saquon's coming back next year.
Saquon's coming back, baby.
As juicy as this pick looks, I gotta say that, and again, like I said, if she looked at each position group and used whatever number system or algorithms that she came up with to determine which position group is their weakest, I can see where wide receiver will come up with not such a great grade, okay? But I think the most important thing for them is getting their running game going and protecting their quarterback. You got to go offensive lineman. You got to go offensive lineman, or you got to get a stud linebacker. The secondary is coming along. The secondary is kind of young, and they're going to be okay. Yeah, that's.
Hey, Ben, listen to this, all right? Because, you know, I'm a Madden guy. You're the fantasy guy, so I like to look at Madden ratings and stuff. So I'm looking at your Giants, right? And they have Andrew Thomas listed as your left tackle right now. Rated 70 overall.
Okay.
All right? That ain't where you want your left tackle to be. Your left guard is Shane Lemieux.
Yeah.
Rated 65.
Okay.
Your center, Nick Gates, rated 68. Your right guard, Kevin Zeitler, 83.
Yeah.
And your right tackle, Cameron Fleming, 66.
Yeah. So
So
those are
that's
low
in line with
grades.
what you're saying.
Those are low grades as far as Madden is concerned, right?
Yeah, yeah. Again, on the scale of 100, you're talking 66, man. And for example, I'll give you as a maybe as a point of reference here. Let's look at the 49ers left tackle Trent Williams, rated 94.
And he's a free agent, by the way. He was on.
Right. So just to give you an idea
Yeah,
on
I
the
get where
scale,
you're coming from.
you know,
So that kind of bears out what I'm saying, right?
exactly.
Okay.
That's the point that we're making. All right. So this is number 12. And since we were here talking about Trent Williams and the 49ers, number 12 is the 49er pick. So you see why we went 12 down here. My beloved 49ers. She has them taking Caleb Farley, Virginia Tech cornerback junior. He said, wait a minute, allowed a passer rating and coverage of 26.8. Jimmy Christmas, he's clamping down on people out there. What's going on? You know anything about Caleb?
I heard his name and I've seen some highlights of him. I didn't get a chance to see Virginia Tech play, but the kid is pretty good. He's a true corner because, sometimes these guys are they're like DBs, like they can't figure out, are they going to use him as a true corner? Are they going to use him as a nickel slot guy? Or are they going to use him as safety? He's a true corner and he can really cover. And she may be on target on this one because your secondary was getting kind of mollywopped there last year.
Oh yeah, I talked to you about that, and again, we were just talking about Richard Sherman, who he's pretty much saying, I'm not going to be here. I'm pretty sure they're going to let me go. Can he step in for Richard Sherman and solidify that side?
Would probably have to, yes, but I believe he could, yes. I believe me. Let me do my homework, and we'll come back to this. If you can save this article, and we start doing our draft homework before we do our draft, and then we got a little bit of time, okay? So that gives me some time, and we'll come back, and I'll let you know if I agree, because I believe that she believes that each one of these guys is the top player at that position. You know what I mean? She's not looking for things that coaches and GMs are really looking for. They don't always look for, he's the number one rated guy at that position and we need that position, so we're going to take that guy. They kind of look for fits. You know what I mean? So I don't think she's looking for fit at all. She's like, this is where you're weak. This is the best guy there. Take that guy, plug him in, let's go. You'll win games. I get it, So it'll be interesting. I got to do some more research and come up with some other names. I think this is going to be a pretty good DB draft too, also, though, which is cool because I know it's going to be a good wide receiver draft.
Well, that was an interesting discussion. Now, let me remind people, this article is on the Ben and Barry Facebook page. We only covered 1 through 12, and there are 32 picks that she has
She did
listed.
the whole first round.
She did the whole first round. Yeah. So, but we'll leave that for people to get a chance to go look at 13 through 32 and take a look at it. We might, again, when things get updated and you get to her draft status 2.0, so there might be some jumbling around. You might see some people that are a little lower now, they're up and things move. And that's what makes all of this stuff so much fun. All right. So again, this is Ben and Barry on football at www.benandbarryonfootball.com. And we are on WJRLradio.com every Friday from 6 to 7:30. Okay. We're going to move into the last portion of the show. And this is our commentary portion. We like to bring up positive things in the commentary portion. But we have a little bit of a yin-yang situation here, Mr. Dickerson. And I want to point it out a little bit. So let's start with playing the Inspired Change Super Bowl commercial for everyone to hear. I want to make sure that we can play this and hear it. Can you see the blank screen where it says Inspired Change?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, let's hit the play button.
Football is a microcosm of America. All races, religions, living, playing, competing side by side. I pray we dedicate ourselves to be the best team we can be. Let's choose to be for one another, to fulfill the promise of one nation, to be part of the solution, be part of the change, to try harder, show up, dive in, and stay at it.
Oh, can we touch for a second? Be us for a second. No matter what I give it to, my love looks better on you.
Inspiring, isn't it?
And let me remind people, that guy talking, that was LaDainian Tomlinson. That was his Hall of Fame speech, part of his Hall of Fame speech from 2017.
LaDainian Tomlinson will always be special to me because when Christopher, my youngest son, was playing high school ball, a reporter that reported on him actually said that's who Christopher reminded him of was LaDainian Tomlinson, which I just thought was amazing to hear. You hear that, and you're like, holy mackerel, So in any event, you're absolutely right. That was his Hall of Fame speech. And the point of the commentary is, not just to give a pat on the back to the NFL. I believe they said they were committing $250 million toward the cause, of racial equality and all of that. But yet, the NFL right now is actually being criticized for their picks for coaches and general managers, where it's not representative of the players, where you got 7 out of 10 players are people of color. But as soon as you get to those ranks where it is the decision of the owners and those people in upper management now. So it seems as if what the NFL is saying and what they're doing at their highest levels are not congruent.
Well, when you say that and you say, okay, there's the NFL and then there's the NFL. There's the NFL, like the commissioner, all those people that work in New York. There's that NFL. Then there's the NFL, 32 team owners. Then there's the NFL, 53 players on 32 different teams that you watch play on Sunday. So
you should have said there's the NFL, then there's the NFL, then there's the NFL.
Exactly. I think the NFL as a whole, that is what's pushing that agenda as far as that commercial is concerned. Okay. But then when you look at the hiring practices, you break it down to that 1/3, which is the team owners. The NFL as a total organization cannot make a team owner hire somebody. That team owner owns that team, and he's going to hire who he wants to fill that job and coach that team. Now, they've offered incentives. They put in a Rooney Rule, and then they added to the Rooney Rule and added incentives to try to prompt these guys to be a little bit more fair about this thing. But let's face it, they're going to hire who they want to hire, and you can't make them do anything. So my thing is, when you say the NFL is saying one thing, but then when you look at the hiring practices, they're saying something else, you got to kind of separate it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think
I think the numbers are what they are, and I think that part of this is the whole thing with power, because we're seeing Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson begin to try to inject themselves into the power structure and feeling rebuffed. I'm hearing on media, on television, where they're starting to talk about the leverage power that these quarterbacks have, and when are they going to begin to speak up about what's going on in the power structure? So I mentioned it last week, and what I was saying, that I believe that what's happening is that people are going to begin to see that what they're saying and what they're doing, that there's a difference. And now if you have those players, especially those with guaranteed contracts, beginning to feel empowered to speak out, it's going to be interesting to see what pressures and what changes happen, as far as black coaches are concerned. You had Tomlinson, from what I understand, speak out saying that he can't understand why Bieniemy doesn't have a job, why he's not a head coach somewhere. How did you skip over Bieniemy for anybody? Interesting thing about that is, while I understand and actually kind of agree, in the back of my mind, I keep thinking that if I was an owner looking at Bieniemy,
I know what you're gonna say.
You go. No, go ahead then. Let me hear what you think I'm gonna say.
No. I'm not, I don't want to say it.
All right. What I was saying is looking at Bieniemy and saying, okay, in order to win, am I going to have the type of players that you have, a Patrick Mahomes and a Kelsey and all of that? Are we going to have to now go into an offense where we got people running around like we're in the Canadian Football League? Is this all that comes along with an Eric Bieniemy? Which is weird, because most of the time, most of the credit for their offense goes to Andy Reid and not Eric Bieniemy. So I don't know how much of all the craziness that they're doing is Andy Reid versus Eric Bieniemy. But I've always kind of felt that connection to Andy Reid hurts Bieniemy. And then secondly, I wondered if you were an owner looking to hire a coach, would you be thinking that Eric Bieniemy, his situation is kind of so specific that I don't know if it would work well here with my team, my Jets, or any of the other teams that hired coaches, for the first time, the Panthers, for example. Well, not the Panthers, the Jaguars.
I get what you're saying. I think in a way I agree with you that may give some owners some pause, because when you look at the Chiefs offense and then you look at other offenses around the league, there aren't many that resemble them. Some don't resemble them
at all.
In the least. Even the ones that are somewhat close to them still have flaws as far as personnel is concerned. You know what I mean? Well, they can't do that because they don't have anything near a Tyreek Hill.
Right.
Well, we got to make sure that we got a top flight tight end, and there's only a few of them out there. So what sense does it make to bring this guy in if he's not going to be able to rev up our offense the way the Chiefs offense is revved up, because we don't have the personnel? And how long will it take? How many drafts are we going to have to go through That now, if an owner is patient, if he's on, it's a team that hasn't been winning. I mean, there's no doubt that somebody could say, you know what, here, take this and fix it. You know, but he can't do it by himself. He's got to hire a staff, and the GM's got to be on board. You know,
Yep,
if
that's
the
true.
GM and him don't see eye to eye, that's a lost cause. He's going to end up getting fired, and that's going to tarnish his legacy. If I was him, I'd stay where the heck I'm at for a while. You know,
I wondered the same thing about the Tampa Bay Bucks coach, assistant coaches. It's like, okay.
Oh no, but the Bucks, the Bucks offense, their offense and defense is much more adaptable than the Chiefs is. I mean, I didn't really study the Chiefs defense. I mean, the Chiefs play a pretty basic defense, so I don't.
What I'm thinking about with the Bucks is, okay, when you had Jameis, all right, you weren't winning at that level, okay. He was throwing as many picks as he was throwing touchdowns. You replace Jameis with a Tom Brady. You bring in a Gronk. You bring in a Brown. You bring, you know what I mean, or Leonard Fournette, and boom, you win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so,
but they play pretty basic football though.
Yeah, but you got again a set of personnel that might be difficult to duplicate or emulate. So if you want to bring those coaches in, are they going to, are you in that? That was my question. It was the same thing like with the enemy.
Yeah, I think it would be a little easy. I'm not saying it would be easy, but it would be easier to simulate the Buccaneers offense. And I'm not even going to mention defense because lots of teams run Tampa too. Okay,
yeah, but they don't have some of them guys that them guys got on Tampa Bay.
I understand that, but you can get close to that. Okay, the Chiefs run a lot of stuff that other teams either don't even attempt to run or only spot here and there. With that jet sweep stuff and all that stuff, you'll see other teams do it, but not much.
Not much. No, I actually agree with you that the Chiefs are at another level of uniqueness.
Right. They're on another level. So that's why I say what I said. So yeah, that could be holding Bieniemy back a little bit. That could be. If I was him, I'd go to Josh McDaniels' route. Belichick ain't gonna coach forever. Josh McDaniels already strayed away and went to Denver and got his butt kicked and came crying back, and Belichick took him back. He ain't going nowhere. If I'm Bieniemy, I'm staying right there under Andy Reid until Andy says, dude, I'm done, because he's gonna hand you the keys.
I would hope so. But again, sometimes those decisions are more impacted by ownership.
They would be fools. They would be total fools.
GMs and ownership, that brain trust at another level. That's the question.
I'll tell you this. Let's assume that all this crazy Kansas City stuff on offense that has been extremely successful all comes from the brain of Andy Reid. Guess who puts it together? Studies it, puts it together, disseminates it to the players, and manages it during the game. Mr. Bieniemy does that. You see Andy looking at his old chart. Bieniemy got chart too. He got headphones too. He's talking to somebody. Okay? Nobody understands that offense better than Andy besides Bieniemy. They would be crazy if Andy calls them tomorrow and says, I can't do it no more. I'm out of here. You got to hand them keys right to Mr. Bieniemy. Who are you going to get?
Hey.
Anybody else you
that
bring
is
in
the
here
question.
You want to change that.
That is the question.
You don't want to change that. They've had a 2-year run that's been remarkable.
So, Ben, Atlanta, Detroit, Houston, Jacksonville, the Chargers, the Jets, and the Eagles. The only team that hired a person of color, as I understand it, was the Jets.
Yes.
Bringing in Robert Saleh.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
And again, let's remember the players, that commercial you watch, the players are with it for the most part. I would bet $1 to a donut. The majority of the players are with it. Obviously, there's some players that have some hidden agendas that we don't know about. But for the most part, the majority of the players are black. Those guys are with it. Okay. And again, they took those images and what the commercial was going to, and they put it to the soundtrack of a speech that was given in 2017. Kudos to LaDainian Tomlinson in his Hall of Fame speech. That was his moment. And that was part of his speech, talking about the NFL and the other players and us as a society and all that. He put all that out there in 2017, and here we are using it in 2021. And that's something.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, Benny, on that note, we're going to get ready to wrap up the show.
Okie dokie.
I don't have any further comments, so it is now in your hands. Last comments, anything?
Yeah, you know me, man. COVID-19, oh boy. I tell you what, Philadelphia Department of Recreation is starting to loosen the reins. The PTTFL Flag Football League will be coming back. Some of my guys are going to a tournament this weekend in Columbus, Ohio. I wish them well. I wish them good luck. I wish them safe travels. Bring back a trophy for me, please, fellas. I wanted to try to go. My wife does not want me to travel right now, and I got another tournament coming up that I must go to in April. So I'm going to sit back on this one, but they'll be all right. So again, toast to you guys. Do well. Our season will be opening up again at the end of March. We'll be going into our spring season. We're going to have our playoffs and our championship 1 week tournament style. And then the very next week, the season will start. So I have to say, as always, go Noles.